numerology is an ancient esoteric practice that's similar to astrology, except instead of looking to the planets and the stars to tell us who we are, numerology uses the power of numbers, and it's existed as long as numbers have existed, as long as astrology has existed. Every single system is basically saying the same thing, and I find that really fascinating. And again, like I'll go to numerology as like the basis of, okay, this is who you are at your core being. I think, again, we live in a numerical system, we live in a numerical world. There's not a day that goes by you're not interacting with numbers. Everything is energy, therefore it could be mathematically measured. So again, this is all just energy, it's all frequency. And when you add up the letters in your name and the numbers in your birthday in a specific way, you can determine, your life path, your life destiny, your karma, the karmic lessons you're here to learn. A really powerful tool for us to understand and know ourselves better and to reflect on who we are and why we came here.
What if the blueprint to your life's purpose was encoded in your birth date and name? Well, in this episode, we dive deep into the mystical world of numerology with Kaitlyn Kaerhart, renowned numerologist and best-selling author. Kaitlyn reveals how the vibrational energy of numbers acts as a cosmic guide, unlocking insights into your life path, karmic lessons, and soul destiny. Whether you see yourself as a leader, a healer, or visionary, understanding these numbers can help you align more fully with your true purpose. We also explore how numerology and astrology combine to offer profound guidance on everything from personal growth to relationship dynamics. Kaitlyn decodes how the universal energies of numbers influence both our individual and collective journeys, offering tools to tap into your highest potential. It's now time to tune into this one very inspirational human being. Enjoy. Well. Today I'm super excited, very, very excited. For those that are watching or listening, depending on what side of the planet you're sitting on right now, we have an amazing guest. We have Kaitlyn Kaerhart. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm super excited as most of the people that know me know that I love numbers and astrology, and Kaitlyn is, I think, the perfect person to really unpack that. But before we get started, we always love to ask our guest, what inspired you to do what you do today?
So I've told this story a few times, and it's funny because it always sounds to me like I'm almost making it up, but numerology came to me in a dream many, many years ago. And I had never heard of numerology, but I had this very, very vivid dream where I heard a voice that said, follow the spiritual numbers. And I woke up at like 3 a.m. and was like Googling like spiritual numbers. And this was a while ago before, even astrology was trending or was that in the mainstream. And I wound up on like page 16 of Google and I found a numerologist in LA and I had a reading with her. And at the time, like I didn't really buy into like astrology holding any weight or any of these tools. Like it just didn't resonate with me. And then I had this numerology reading and it just absolutely blew my mind. I didn't understand how this person who couldn't know anything about me because she didn't know me somehow knew everything. And so that just kind of like opened up my whole world um when it came to numerology. And then again, like my love for that then led to, studying astrology and human design and all these things. But even my numerology career was a complete accident. I mean, I was just doing readings for people for fun. Like I was a musician and I would go into the studio and ask for people's birthdays. And eventually people started offering to pay me for readings. And then I wound up with this word of mouth business. And then, long story short, Penguin Random House UK heard about me and then offered me a book deal. And I thought, okay, well, no one's going to read this because no one knows what numerology is. And I wrote the book, and then it became a bestseller in the spiritual category in England and Australia. And I was on TV here, and yeah, it complete freak accident that all started from a dream. Literally a dream, not figuratively.
No, and it was so meant to happen, right? Obviously, it's meant to happen. That's why it came to you. I love that. So, for our audience who's probably never experienced numerology, maybe talk us through a little bit about that first. Like, what do you find in numbers, and how do you work them out?
Mm. So, for those who don't know what numerology is, I think like the easiest explanation would be that numerology is an ancient esoteric practice that's similar to astrology, except instead of looking to the planets and the stars to tell us who we are, numerology uses the power of numbers. And it's existed as long as numbers have existed, as long as astrology has existed. And there are several different, very simple calculations that you can use to determine your cosmic code or your numerological chart. And these are all based off of your full legal birth name and your birthday. So, numerology believes that every number, every letter has a vibration to it, right? So, each letter in your name um, is actually represented by a specific number. So again, this is all just energy, it's all frequency. And when you add up the letters in your name and the numbers in your birthday in a specific way, you can determine, your life path, your life destiny, your karma, the karmic lessons you're here to learn, the karmic debt you might have, the personal year cycle you're in. I mean, numerology is really kind of endless what you can look to. But again, it's a really powerful tool for us to understand and know ourselves better and to reflect on who we are and why we came here.
So I love that. I love it. And they do carry energy. They have their own personality, their own vibration, don't they? And so I guess I'd love to really unpack those. And I'm not too sure how you go about your numerology, but just from my understanding, it's from 1 to 9. But then there's power numbers 11, 22, 33, and they all significantly have a different vibe about them. Would you
Mhm.
like to kind of high level go through the energies of the numbers?
Yeah. So numerology deals primarily with single digit numbers 1 through 9, and that's because that represents the purest form of energy. So in numerology, we're always reducing numbers to a single digit. And again, it's kind of hard to explain that when you're listening, but if I'll send you a little photo for people to see how you add up things, it's very simple. But the only exception with the single digits are what are considered master numbers, and these are numbers that are just higher vibration. It doesn't mean they're better than, it just means they carry a little bit more weight. And those numbers are 11, 22, and 33. So if I was to just go down the line and say what each of them is really, really quickly. So one is, the leader, the pioneer, the innovator. Two is the empath, the diplomat, the sensitive one. Three is the communicator, it's self-expression, it's the sunshine number, it's joy. Four is the builder. It's all about structure and being practical and methodical. Five is the free spirit. It's a bit of a hedonist. It's all about change and being adaptable and travel. Just experience is really what the five is about. Then we have the six, which is the number of love and family and relationships and the home, really like that where the home is where the heart is kind of feeling, not necessarily your physical home. And then we have seven, which is the philosopher and the seeker. And the seven is really, meditative and here to follow its sacred calling. Then we have the eight, which is the only number that has to do with money and the material realm. So the eight's about power, achievement, being the powerhouse. And again, like material abundance. Then we have the nine, which is the humanitarian, it's compassionate, it's endings, it's completion. Um, and then we have 11, which is the psychic, it's the most intuitive number. And we have 22, which is the most powerful number in numerology, which is known as the master builder. So it's kind of like a master architect, right? It's here to build huge structures for humanity to really shift. And then we have 33, which is unconditional love and Christ consciousness.
Wow, I love that. So I was actually, as you were going through, I was thinking about the astrological houses as well, whether there was some
Mm.
connection with the astrology, the actual houses itself, as you were going through the numbers. So these are archetypes It's almost like they have their own archetypes within each number. And so have
Yeah, I
you
really
seen I'm
actually see
sorry.
the 2. Oh, I really see the 2 as a Libra energy. Very big Libra energy. I don't know if maybe you were thinking about Libra when I was talking about the 2, but I definitely feel that.
Yeah, so I was thinking about I was thinking about the houses itself, the energy with the houses, and then the rulers of each house as you were going through the numbers. So obviously they're an archetypal essence about each and single every single one of them. So does that mean that when you're doing the numbers and you're able to understand the numerology, you're able to understand, I guess, the archetype that the person have come here to express?
Yeah, essentially. So we all have a series of numbers that make up who we are. So I liken it to a computer. That's why the name of my book is Your Cosmic Code, right? Like everything is coding, and we all have our own codes that are as unique as a thumbprint. So definitely.
And so, from your own understanding of your numbers, what has been some insights for you as you've really unpacked? Because I know even for me, like learning a little bit about numerology, but then astrology, it doesn't matter. I mean, I started looking into astrology in my 20s. I'm 58 now, so it was a long time ago. But I still look at it and go, wow, how could I not see that? How did I not know that about myself? Do you experience that yourself with numbers and astrology that you keep unpacking even more information, more insights?
I think it for sure. I think definitely when I first got into numerology, it really blew my mind because there are a lot of things in my life that continued to happen. I just didn't understand why. Like it wasn't really making sense. For example, I like never really wanted to be in the spotlight. I always wanted to kind of hide in the background, not be seen, kind of just, and whether that was in school or, when I was working primarily as a musician and I was in bands and I wasn't the singer and I was just like the guitar player with Mystique and was writing the songs and I would hide behind the singer. Like I never wanted to be thrust into the spotlight, but every time that I would be in like a group project or perform on stage, I was always somehow put in the spotlight, or people would always ask me to take lead on things. And I found it really frustrating. And I was like, what is this energy that I'm putting off that is making people kind of do that? Because I don't want to. Right. And then when I found out that I'm a life path 1, which is the leader, and my destiny is also a life path or a life destiny 1, I was like, whoa, okay. So that's kind of something I need to work through is this fear of being seen because actually I am meant to be a leader and I am meant to step out a little bit more. And I need to kind of get comfortable with that. And when I started to embrace more of that, my life started to flow a lot more. There was a lot less resistance. And I think that the more that you're working with your code, you will find that you can kind of come into more of a flow as opposed to swimming against the current.
That is really cool because that's what you've come here to fulfill, right? So obviously, I think it also will teach you that inner, like the things that you also want to work on. I think that
Yeah.
that brought to light that shadow work where the stuff that you were resisting is the stuff that you really need to embrace and accept.
Yeah, well, I tell people that all the time when they say that their life path doesn't resonate. And I go, okay, well, we don't come out the womb fully embodying all of the traits of what we came here to do. Usually, your destiny is the thing that you struggle with the most to do. It's that it's the hardest mountain that you have to climb, and that's why you have to do it, right? And so I love that the numbers kind of give you that direction of, hey, why don't you try this on and see how it goes?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I haven't worked out my life path, but I know I'm a number 8. And it's interesting because when you were talking about the master builder, I've only ever, if I look back at my timeline, it's not something that I want to. It's like I always say and I'm an accidental entrepreneur. It's
Yeah.
something that I've just fallen into, but there's still sometimes a level of resistance. Even though it's that, and I do
Yeah.
have 22 on my, so when you were saying, I was like, isn't it interesting? There's times where I don't wanna be the builder. I actually wanna just chill, just take a break from being a builder and just maybe take some time out. but I get
Yeah.
thrown into situations all the time.
Well, that's because that's the energy that you are embodying. So that's how people respond to you. But again, that's I personally think that's where your soul grows and evolves the most. And so that's why you're, I haven't looked into your cosmic code, but that's why you're that number. Like I'm a 1 because that was something that I didn't fully master in a past life. So now it's like, okay, it's time to level up, and that is kind of the best curriculum for your soul in order to really have that growth that you're looking for.
So it's almost like when you're thinking, I'm just looking at also the connection with astrology, because it's almost like if you look at the
Yeah.
north node and the south node, your south node is what you've obviously experienced in, if you want to, for those that want to
Mhm.
believe in reincarnation or a past life. So you're very comfort, that's your comfort zone. But your north node is what you've come here to fulfill, because that's your something you didn't complete in a past life. Yeah. So you do
Yeah.
that with numbers as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. It's funny you bring up the nodes because I actually think the North Node and the South Node are two of the most important points in astrology to locate and to understand in your own chart. And I don't think that it's discussed enough. And it always kind of blows my mind that people are always so consumed with certain, like, oh, what's your Mercury? What's your moon? What's this? But I'm like, whoa, where are you heading in this life? And what have you mastered? There's so much just power in knowing that. So I love that you brought that up. But yeah, definitely. It's the same with numbers, right? It's like, here's where you're moving towards, and here's what you've already mastered. And again, across all the systems, there are different points that show us that, whether, it's the North Node in astrology or, in human design, there are different aspects that tell you, like, your incarnation cross. Same with numerology. When you know your life path and your life destiny, and then your karmic numbers, it paints that picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking about your north node, obviously this is what you were saying. You're focusing on what's your because everyone has a different understanding about the south node. Like so for me, I look at it that's my toolkit, and that's what I know this already because my south node's in my first house, and I'm a Scorpion rising, and then my north node's in my seventh house. So I'm very
Ooh.
much I'm very much here to be of service
Yeah.
and creating partnerships. When I look at my numerology as well, when you were talking about it, it just kind of makes sense that I work in partner with others to build, I call it an empire because that's what it's turning out to be. It's just that the more that we expand, but it's not for me, and I'm not doing it for me. It's absolutely for others, always for
Mhm,
others. And so when I
mhm,
see that, I look at that as in it's that, maybe in a past life I did a lot of things for me, but now it's time to share me or my knowledge with others. So
mhm.
how do you understand the north node and the south node?
I see the South Node. I mean, I love how you put that it's your kind of your toolbox. But I see the South Node as in your most recent past life, that's what you mastered. So your South Node is in Scorpio. So in your most recent incarnation, you embodied all the traits of Scorpio, you mastered all the Scorpio traits. So it's kind of fresh in your system, so to speak. And in this lifetime, you need to kind of balance that out by taking on more Taurus traits and leaning more into being Taurus as opposed to Scorpio. And it's really interesting for you because you have that first house, seventh house dynamic, where again, the first house is the only house that has to do with the self, and the seventh house is the other. So again, that makes sense that you're like, okay, it really is more about other. And also with that North Node in the seventh house, I really see that as you are meant to come into a really prominent partnership in your lifetime. A lot of people that I know who have North Node of the seventh house, they are meant to have a, long kind of, again, like a very significant partnership, almost like a power couple situation. This could be in work or it could be in marriage. Seventh house is the house of marriage, but also business contracts. But again, I will say, just to the point we made earlier, that people I know who do have North Node and seventh house, relationships are not easy for them. And that is because that is what you're here to master, and it's not comfortable.
So spot on. Yes, and absolutely. That resonates with me a lot. So you were saying before, you
Mhm.
mentioned about the the synergy between the archetypes. So whether it's planets or numbers, so whether it's, Pluto or Mercury, whatever that may be, I'd love to understand more about the synergy. How do you bring them together, the different archetypes with astrology and numbers?
Well, I like to look at all these different systems for different reasons. I think that numerology and astrology are saying the same things, but in different ways. If that makes sense, I'm not sure if you found that, but I've decoded a lot of people, and I don't just focus on astrology and numerology. That's my main thing, but I also read human design, and the Maya, and also the 52 card deck. And it's, again, every single system is basically saying the same thing. And I find that really fascinating. Um, and again, like, I'll go to numerology as like the basis of, okay, this is who you are at your core being. I think, again, we live in a numerical system, we live in a numerical world. There's not a day that goes by you're not interacting with numbers. Everything is energy, therefore it could be mathematically measured. So numerology is the basis of, like, okay, who is this person? What are they doing? And then astrology is kind of just that icing on the top, right? It's kind of like, okay, here's who you are at your core. But if I want to know something like, how do you communicate? And I see, oh, your Mercury's in Libra. Okay. That gives me a little bit more like detail. And I also do like to go to astrology for the transits. I think if we look at your numerological makeup, and then we're also tracking transits that are happening in your chart astrologically, it becomes a very powerful tool for you to really measure the energy that's around you, and, like, you know, um, making decisions on when to take action on things or when not to take action. That's why I created these numerological personal year cycle planners, and in it I put all the moon cycles. Because again, I think it's so powerful when you use them in conjunction with each other as opposed to seeing them as separate tools, because they have their own power and strength, and it's like, why not use both of them, especially when they're so supportive of each other?
Are you happy to give us an example? Because I love that. I mean, obviously, full moons are all about letting it go, and new moons is starting fresh. And so, how do you
Yeah.
bring the numbers and the moonology together?
Okay, so for example, July is a universal month 6 in the collective. So that is a month of, love and healing and relationships and family and responsibilities. Actually, the only numbers that really have to do with love are 2 and 6. So when we're in the energy of a 2 or a 6, it's a really powerful time to deepen your relationships and to call in new relationships. Knowing that we have a new moon this week, you can focus some of your manifestations in that way. Like, okay, we're in a 6 energy right now. That's good for love. New moons are new beginnings. It's a great time to manifest. So, hey, let me direct my manifestations in that way. Let me see, like, who are the people that I want to connect with right now? Like, am I satisfied with my relationships? Um, Again, I think that that's just one way, but there are so many ways. And I find that everyone is so unique with how they use them, but I always like to use them in that way. I think it makes it more fun too.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I was even looking into the year because we're a number 8 this year. And I
Yeah,
was even calculating 2021, which was 5, which was massive change for all of us, right? And more than
yeah.
we expected. So, what does the year of 8 mean for us?
So 8 is the only number that has to do the material realm. So it's all about money, um, achievement, and power. Now, how that plays out individually is different than how it will play out collectively, right? I think collectively we're seeing a lot going on in the world in terms of like power shifting, and I don't want to get into politics, especially
It's okay.
right
You're safe here. It's all right.
now. But again, it's um what's our relationship to authority, and how do we, as a collective on the planet, how do we feel empowered? How do we make sure all people are feeling empowered? Where is power being used in a way that's oppressive? How can we shift that? I think there's a lot that's gone on this year where we're starting to see things in a different way. And I think a lot of that kind of started in 2020. There was such a big shift, and that was a year 4, which was a year of foundations, right? So the foundations in our world, our society really started to shift and change. And now we're kind of looking at it like, okay, wait, who's in charge? Who holds the power in society? And are we okay with that? And I think we're finding no, in a lot of ways. But again, that's the power aspect. There's also the money aspect, right? Like we're seeing a lot of shifts with even Bitcoin continuing to change and to rise, and the conversation around cryptocurrency. And I feel it's very divided how people feel about it. Some people think it's like a tool for liberation, and other people think it's going to be something that oppresses us. We also have inflation at its highest. Again, like there's so many ways the energy plays out, but the collective right now is really focused on those things, the money, achievement, and power. And then next year, will be a universal year 9, and that's a year of endings and completion, and it's the humanitarian number. So that will be really interesting to see how that plays out as well.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about Pluto moving out of Capricorn, which is the breaking down of
Yeah,
systems, which is what you're talking about. The eight,
exactly.
the 8 year, it's like government, finance, and then even like moving into the 9, which is that transition of Pluto into Aquarius, that kind more of that energy.
Yeah.
So
Well,
is
and
that? Sorry, go on.
oh no, I was gonna say, I wrote about this, I think on Instagram or somewhere, but the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was when the American Revolution happened. So this is not like it's funny because there's so many people online that are like, "Oh my God, it's this moon's gonna change your life," and "Oh my God, this planet's retrograde," and they make such a big deal about it. And a lot of times, the energy comes and goes, and it's not a significant transit. But Pluto moving in Aquarius has not happened in over 200 years. And again, the last time this happened was when there was the American Revolution. So if we look back at that, and then we look at what's happening now, it it's interesting, right? That's all I'm gonna say. It's very interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as that's what most astrologers do. They look, back in the timeline to some of the reoccurrence because I think there was also the French Revolution around that time as well. So it is absolutely playing out. But I also think, yeah, I love the way that you even brought that up because you see a lot of people out there. Oh my God, your life's going to change. Oh, everything's going. But it's what we do with it, right? I always see that it's the when it's any planetary alignment is really like cosmic weather. It's what
Yeah,
we do with the energy that's around us. At the end of the day, that's where free will comes in, right? It's about okay, so I know that. So I do look at certain things before we make decisions as well with the business. Like if everything's in retrograde my chart, and I look at the business chart, and go, maybe I'll just wait a couple more weeks. And
yeah,
absolutely, and I know a lot of people I mean, the royal family uses astrology. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years as a way
yeah,
to map and work with the energies around us. Is that
yeah.
what you do?
Yeah, and I always tell people, the moment that you feel that these tools are not empowering you, get rid of them because I don't like the fear mongering. That's not what they're here to do. I really see astrology and numerology as tools for awareness and for us to have a deeper understanding and knowing of ourselves and again, what's happening around us. And again, right now, for example, I have Uranus on my ascendant at 0 degrees. Which means that Uranus, the planet that's like the rebel and unconventional, that is sitting directly on top of my ascendant. Now that, Uranus transits take 84 years. So this is not like a normal, like fun occurrence, but I'm not sitting here freaking out about it. I'm just thinking, okay, what about my identity and my personality? Do I want to shift? Like, is there something I want to change about my appearance? What unexpected changes have I maybe been feeling are coming that I can lean into? And the way that I'm working with the transit is to just say yes to everything. So, I tend to be a hermit sometimes and I can be quite overwhelmed by things. I'm a manifestor in human design, if you know about that. So I like have
Yes.
to retreat and come back out. Um, but now I'm just like, you know what? I'm saying yes to this, yes to that. And that's kind of how I'm working with the energy as opposed to, oh my God, Uranus is on my ascendant, my whole world's gonna blow up, something bad's happening. And again, like that's the stuff you see online because it's clickbait. But I just feel like it's just putting you, I hate to say this, but it's just putting you in a lower vibration. It's putting you in a lower
Absolutely.
state of fear. And again, these tools should liberate you and make you feel like, I don't know, maybe you have a little bit, I don't want to say control, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's like you said,
Absolutely.
use it as a tool for your business and you want to set yourself up for the most success in all areas of life. So why not use this as a tool to kind of deepen that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like even time when people have talked about certain transits, and I think it was there was a big thing when the whole Pluto was moving back and forth, and Capricorn and Aquarius, and like I said, it was, whether it was clickbait, but to me, it was fear mongering and absolutely dropping people into a low vibrational frequency because you could look at change as a positive thing. I mean, if you think about it, if I look at my life, some of the toughest things that I've experienced in my life have been the biggest growth. But
Oh
the
yeah.
thing that I've learned from that too is the less resistance, whatever comes my way, the less resistance, the quicker I'm allowing it to flow through my life. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. That is, I mean, that's something I really have to learn is surrender, but that's because my son is Virgo. And that's something that I'm always practicing. And I think that a lot of suffering comes from to attachment and expectations, right? Like something needs to look a certain way, something needs to be this way. But when I look back at my life and I look at like the biggest rock bottom moments I've had, like that redirection was always protection. It always put me on the path that I was meant to be on. But you can only connect the dots going backwards, right? But yeah,
Absolutely.
surrender, I think, is the hardest thing for humans to do. But it's when you can do that and you release that attachment, life becomes a lot better, a lot more peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got my sister's, her Virgo is in her son is in Virgo. And interesting because we talk about I've been practicing, I say practicing 3 principles, and we do it in our academy as well: non-resistance,
Mm,
non-judgment, and non-attachment. And that especially when you're coaching others, because otherwise it can come across leading and so forth. But a practice of it's about letting go, like you said, surrendering. And
yeah.
it is hard to do, but that's where the magic happens because we don't know that we think that this is for us, and sometimes we hang on to it so tightly, but it's in the letting go that the when you let go and you surrender and you go, I accept whatever takes place. It's a different experience because you're allowing the magic, or God, universe, to work with you and for you. And so then things start to, like you said, put you on the right track, meet the right person at the right time, or get into a partnership with, business partnership or collaboration with the right people.
Mhm.
But it is a hard practice. It is a hard practice.
I tend to find, or maybe this is just my own path, that when you I think that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will give you the exact lessons that you need, like the exact experiences you need to learn certain things. And I think for me, surrender has been like one of the biggest things I've had to learn in this life. It's also echoed in like my charts on everything. And I've been put through so many experiences where I was forced, like forced to surrender. And I think that's what happens, right? It's like when you're not learning the lesson, the universe keeps throwing things at you. And I'm sure you've been through that, which is where you got to this, okay, the non-resistance and the surrendering and all that, probably because you weren't that good at it. And so the universe was like, all right, let's send her some experiences to really rock her so she learns this. And yeah, again, I think that surrendering is just so hard because we get so attached to things and it's not just our own personal like spirit that's so attached to it. It's also, we're so conditioned in society to hold on to things and that things need to look a certain way. And that's just again from all my years of reading charts, we're all just so unique. There is no one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a specific number that's the most stubborn?
It really depends. they're all, I would say anything that's like a leader archetype is going to be stubborn. So like a 1 and an 8. A 4 can be really stubborn in certain scenarios, like especially when it comes to following rules. 4s really love to follow rules where 1s hate to do that. And then I think again, the master numbers are all quite stubborn. And that's because master numbers tend to be old souls who come into this lifetime and they come in with a much larger ego than the rest of the numbers. And they then have to have their ego broken down through extraordinary experiences so they can resonate with a large audience. So they tend to be the numbers that are really kind of walking that fine line between greatness and self destruction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's as you were speaking about that, I was thinking about the light and shadow of the numbers as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. But you made me think about absolutely. It's something that I talk about, and it's that for years I was practicing, and I've had some interesting experiences. We've all had our own interesting experiences through our life, and I was practicing forgiveness for such a long time. But you know what it was doing? It kept bringing the whole thing I was trying to forgive and keep bring back the picture, the vision of what I was trying to forgive the person for. And I
Mm,
just wanted to share this because this goes with surrendering and letting go. And the moment I said, I accept, it took place as a soul, I chose this experience, gone. I had
yeah.
no triggers, none at all. And so that's a power of even like a simple exercise of forgiveness, which I couldn't, I was like, why is it I'm still getting triggered by this person, even though I've forgiven them? But they were in my mind, I had forgiven them. But what was happening is I was bringing the picture forward in my mind every time I was trying to practicing forgiveness. But the power of like, I'm just going to accept this. This took place. I accept.
Mm,
I'm not going to forgive anymore because I chose
yeah.
this was so powerful, so
Yeah.
powerful.
I went through a similar thing. Last year was honestly probably the hardest year of my life. Definitely one of them. And I just had a series of things happen that were really challenging. And I remember just sitting there in like a very grief-stricken place and just saying out loud, like, you know, this is happening and I accept it. And I just kept listing off everything that was coming up for me that was really challenging, and I just kept saying like, "This is happening and I accept it. This is happening and I accept it." And actually, that became a practice I did regularly, and it really, really helped. I think, like, saying it out loud to myself helped me to actually accept it. It's really powerful because again, it's like, you know, if you're going through a breakup, for example, you're heartbroken. Usually in your mind, you're like, why did this happen? We were so good for each other. Like, how could this, how could this happen to me? Like, you know what I mean? All these stories you tell yourself. But if you just sit there like, we're not together right now, and that's okay. I accept that. Things ended and I accept that. Like, if you just keep going down the line, it actually like releases some of that like resistance in you.
Absolutely, you're loosening the boundaries of that the form of the
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, absolutely. I'm also conscious of your time. I did want to talk a little bit about the light and shadow because from obviously every archetype has a light and shadow aspect, and how do we work with that from a numerology point of view as well with the archetypes? Like, how do we work with the light and shadow? How do we know we're in shadow of our numbers? And how do we
Mm.
bring more light to those shadow aspects when they're right in our face?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the, there's a study of numerology that you can dive deeper into. And if you want to know more about light and shadow, definitely check out my Instagram because I list it out in there. But I think like a really quick way to know is to, if you know your life path number, which is based on your birthday, and you know what that archetype is. For example, I said that I'm a life path 1. That's the leader, that's the innovator, that's the creative pioneer. If I think about what the opposite of that is, what the shadow of that is. So again, hiding, not wanting to lead, not creating. Like again, that's a really quick way for you to just be like, oh, I might be tapping into the shadow as opposed to the light. Another good example is the 5. The 5 is the free spirit. Everybody loves a free spirit, right? But sometimes you can take it too far, which is why they're known to, sometimes be too pleasure seeking, or sometimes like gambling or drug addiction can be associated with that. Because again, what's the shadow side of freedom? is excess. So I think that's a really quick way to know if you're dipping into the shadow. Um, yeah.
I love that. And I'm going to ask you, what's the shadow of innate?
Oh man, being a dictator, right? Because the eight holds all this power. So, using power in a really negative way, like exerting your power onto others in an unhealthy way. So that's why I say being a dictator. Also, again, eight is money. So there's a healthy, loving, light way to use money. Then there's an oppressive, you know, not great way to use money. And then there's also the shadow of like, are you overspending? Are you in a lot of debt versus, having healthy financial habits?
Yeah, as I was thinking about the eight, the whole balance is to be right smack in the middle, not to be too excessive. It's interesting because we
Exactly.
had somebody else on the show. We talk about money blocks, and I tend to give my money away all the time. I've got this
Yeah.
thing about having money, but that's a different story altogether.
Well,
Go on, what
money,
were you going to say?
someone told me once that when I was kind of working through my own financial blocks, they said that money, you think of money as circulating money as opposed to just spending it or giving it away. And it's when you circulate, it's like you're putting money out and it's coming back, right? It's a currency. So it's always coming back to you. And I liked that idea of circulating money versus, oh, I'm just spending this money or, getting upset over a bill, being like, oh, I'm just throwing this money away, this stupid bill. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm circulating money in the collective right now, right? I think that's a cool idea.
I love that. I do that. That's great to keep in mind for those that have to pay lots of bills as well. As we have a look at it as you're circulating money rather than, damn, I've got another bill to pay. So I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you brought that up. Is there anything else that I guess you would like to share with our audience when it comes to numerology or astrology, or anything else that you would like to speak about?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that I would just encourage everyone to keep an open mind and to explore, again, whatever healing modality calls to you. Like if it's not numerology, maybe it's astrology. If it's not astrology, maybe it's human design. I just think to not use these incredible tools as a way to reflect and know yourself better is doing yourself such a disservice. There's so much that can be learned, not just about yourself, but even, in healing relationships. Like I used to have a pretty difficult relationship with my mom. And then when I started reading our charts together and our, synastry, our compatibility, I was like, whoa, okay. Here's the parts where we're not understanding each other. And let me work on that. Again, use it as a tool for you to enrich your life and empower your life. And honestly, miracles can happen. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm not into astrology, I'm not into numerology because I don't believe in it. And I'm like, well, it's not really a belief system. I don't see it that way. I see it more again as a really powerful tool, like free therapy.
I agree, absolutely, and I totally agree, it's not a belief system. So do you check out, like, people that come into your life? Do you check out their numbers and astrology
Oh
before
yeah.
you get yeah?
Oh yeah. No, I don't hire people if I don't have their birth information. I don't get close to anyone where I don't have their birthday, but it's not even like I'm judging them like, "Oh, I won't let an Aries near me." Like, I don't think like that at all. It's more about I wanna understand what I'm bringing to the table for you and how I can show up best for you, and also what someone is bringing to the table for me and how they're showing up for me, right? Because we are all impacting each other in very specific ways. So, for example, when I'm hiring someone, if some of their planets are showing up in my career houses, that's a great sign. My career and money houses, where, if I'm looking to hire someone and the energy is more like the 12th house, which is like the subconscious realm, or, the fourth house, which is home, that's maybe not the best fit. Like, again, depending on what I'm looking for, but we all have gifts to offer each other. And I think when we are looking into the charts, it helps us to know more like, oh, cool. Like, here's what we can achieve together. Here's what I can do for you. Here's what you can do for me. Not a transactional way, but in a like really loving, supportive way.
Yeah, it's like a collaboration, right? You want to make sure that you're actually getting the right fit for the right role, and also that
Yeah.
they're using their strength. You're able to activate each other's strengths because
Yes,
it's really about
exactly.
collaboration, really.
Yeah, and then you can also see your compatibility. You can also see like, have you known each other in previous lifetimes? Like, what do you maybe owe each other in this lifetime? I think that's really powerful, like it's fun to be able to look at that and to see what you can learn from someone, what they have to teach you that maybe you don't necessarily have. They bring a certain energy that, if I was to be around someone who had a lot of fours in their cosmic code, I don't have any fours in my cosmic code. So I have a lot to learn from them because they're so different from me. Right. And then you can look at people and think, wow, that's their strength, as opposed to maybe I might judge someone if I didn't have that knowledge and think, oh, well, the four is like this, and that's just like weird to me. But actually, like, that's their gift, and I should learn from them just in the way that they can learn from me more gifts of the one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you do that because what you're looking at is because absolutely we do have missing elements or missing numbers. And so
Yeah.
you're looking at it as what they're bringing to you rather than, oh no, we're not compatible. It's more like
Yeah.
I've got these missing elements or numbers within my chart and I can actually learn from them. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I do think whenever I talk about compatibility, I mean, of course, there's people that you're going to get along with more, but I do think that anyone can be with anyone. It's just kinda like, how hard do you want your life to be depending on you know what I say? Like, so like, who you're gonna choose romantically is gonna be different than who you're gonna work with, who you're gonna be friends with. But again, it is when you can look at it more like that of, "Oh, this person has a lot of things I don't have, and there's so much I can learn." I think it becomes such a empowering, view for a relationship to really flourish.
I love that. At the same time, have you ever experienced where you've just intuitively gone, wow, been attracted to a person, and then you looked at the chart and they're going, actually, they're not good for me?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, like, that's what is that, you can tell, like, I had that with someone last year, and I remember being like, "Whoa, why am I so drawn to this person?" And there wasn't a lot of compatibility, and I was like, "Oh, this feels like maybe it could be, like, a trauma situation." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we both have some of the similar unhealed things that we're drawing towards each other, so I did not explore that connection.
That's interesting because it is true. We always attract what we must grow or heal, right? We'll always attract. So it's like, whether it's a mother wound or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So you're
But I
basically, it's almost like you're doing a skip step in your timeline, almost, right? Because what you're doing is you're going, hang on a minute, we're both, there's this automatic attraction, but the attraction could be trauma that needs to be healed. So rather than putting it, like you said, you have a choice. You can make it hard for yourself or easy for yourself. So what you're saying then is, well, I'm not going to actually entertain that because
Yeah.
I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with my life. That's really cool.
Yeah, but I also think that the universe will test you when you have to learn a specific lesson. And in this specific scenario that I'm explaining, that person was very similar to a relationship I had just left. And so I felt I don't wanna say privileged in a way, but I felt lucky that I was able to look at the charts and be like, "Oh, no, like, I know that this is not good for me because this person really reminds me of that situation." And so I think by me saying, "You know what? I've, like, learned that lesson. I'm not really interested in going through that again," and I closed the door, and then, soon after that, I actually, like, did get into a healthy relationship with the person that I'm still with. So again, I think, like, you'll notice those patterns speaking of patterns, that's probably the thing I love the most about numerology is that it really shows us our patterns, and when you understand your patterns and how cyclical we all are, it's such a game changer for you to kind of get out of some of these loops that we get stuck on.
Oh, absolutely. We get it. I mean, we do that and I have an academy. It's called the Positive Psychology Coaching Program, and we look at loops. So we're addicted to patterns. So that is really
Yeah,
cool to use tools like numerology, astrology to find your patterns and break those patterns. I love it. Absolutely
absolutely.
love it.
That's my favorite part about numerology, to be honest.
That is so cool. So cool. Okay, I am conscious of your time. I might have to get you to come back on the show because I love talking to you and I've got lots more questions. I actually prepared a whole lot of questions which I haven't even delved into, but that's quite normal for me. So the way that we wrap up the show is we always love to ask our guests, what are three shiny golden nuggets that you would like to leave for our audience today?
Mm. I would say if you want to look into your numerology and your cosmic code, if you just know your life path, your life destiny, and your personal year cycles, that can change your life. Like, it changed my life just knowing those 3 numbers, and they're really easy to calculate, and you can find those calculations for free on my website. So definitely check that out. Does that count for the 3 nuggets, or do I have 2
Oh,
more?
you do have two more, but it's up to you. However you want to do that. I'm just thinking I'm going to do that as you were sharing that. But yes, go for it.
I would also say this is, like, really random, but a lot of people come to me and ask me how they can get more in touch with their intuition, and something that I like to do, or used to do when I was, like, really sharpening my intuition was I'll wake up in the morning and, like, ask myself, like, "Okay, where do I need to go today? Where do I need to be? Who do I need to speak to?" And whatever the first thing that comes in my mind, I would go do that, and when you do that, like, consecutively for, like, a month, miracles start to happen. It's pretty crazy. You build your relationship with your intuition, and then some really fun, interesting things will happen. So that's I don't know if that's like a nugget, but a
That's a
little tip.
massive nugget. And you know who we just had Kathy Heller say the same thing. She does that every
Oh,
day.
cool. Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
other people were doing that, so
that
that's
is
dope.
amazing. Go for it.
And then I think the last thing I would say, I guess I'll make it astrological. I really, really love the nodes. So I think people, if you don't know what your north node and south node are, it's so easy to Google them because they go by years even. So if you just know like, oh yeah, I was born in, you know, 1994, then you'll know like, oh, that's the node, right? But look into your north node and south node. It's so potent. And then also, while you're in the astrology realm, I love looking at asteroids, specifically Chiron, Juno. Juno's right relation to marriage. Chiron is wounded healer. When you understand your Chiron and where your deepest wounding lies, that's also a game changer. So I think I threw a lot out with these nuggets. Hopefully, it's helpful. Let me know if anyone's listening,
Amazing
send
nuggets.
me a DM on Instagram.
Amazing, amazing nuggets. So we'll have everything, all the links in our show notes. Where do you hang out the most?
Instagram.
Instagram. Amazing. Oh, Caitlin, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Like I said, I was super excited this morning. I actually got up at 4 o'clock this morning. So I was like jumping out of bed. I'm so excited. So thank you for
Wait, what
coming on the
time is it
show.
there?
It's actually now 6:58 in the morning.
Oh my goodness, it's 10 p.m. in London right now.
Oh, wow. It's past my bedtime. See, I mean, it's probably past your bedtime. But I want to say thank you for coming on the show, sharing your wealth of wisdom, and thank you so much for your energy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're a delight. Delight.